Okay, I believe I am live. Because I'm live in 5 seconds, I'll just wait for some folks to show up. I believe that I can read your comments, so check in when you can. I will be able to see and read. All right, we're still live. I started this a little bit early just so folks can come in and get settled. We'll start drinking, tasting, talking in earnest in a few minutes. 5:56. I'll start officially greeting folks around 6. Get yourself comfortable. Pour yourself a glass of wine. If anyone is already tuned in, if you could type a comment, I'd love to see if I could read it. Ooh, I'm up to one viewer. Is that me? Am I the one viewer? I'm up to one viewer. Is that me? Am I the one viewer? All right. Hello, Amy. Amy's watching. Welcome, Amy. Hi, Michelle Queenan. Hope you and your family are well. I just got this. I just logged in a little bit before 6, just so I made sure everything was fine. Hello, Sheridans and friends. Welcome. Thanks for jumping in. We appreciate it. I really appreciate it. It's a nice night to be hanging out with friends. I've even got a few here in the yard. There they are. Since most of you folks get your friends together for these monthly tastings now, I decided to do the same thing. Even though I really can't talk to them much for the next hour, uh, they will be making occasional guest appearances to get wine as well. So pour yourself a glass, and again, throw me out your comments when you can. Let me know that you're here. If you can check in. This is being simulcast through StreamYard on my Facebook page, on my Grapes Unwrapped page, and also on my YouTube Live, which is Hank Zona and the Grapes Unwrapped. So you should be able to get in and find me somewhere along the way. So let me just get my bucolic setting all lined up. There we go. How's that look? Pretty good, right? All right. There. Not bad. And yes, you'll notice that if you are pouring yourself the first wine, if you haven't poured it yet, once you do, there is going to be a little light fizz in there. So There's nothing wrong with your glass of wine. It's supposed to have a light fizz, and I'll talk about that with you all in a few moments once more folks get here. All right, we're getting our viewers up. Sounds good. Folks are starting to meander in. I like that. Again, if you can check in, leave a comment. It should be able to pop up here on my screen, I hope, and just let me know that you're here. And then once we get enough folks here, we're going to get started. Super. I think people are rolling in. If you did not buy the 3-pack of wine, you're more than welcome to stay and hang out and comment and hear what we have to say. It is a bit like standing outside the bakery and not being able to go in and buy anything, but still, I think it should be fun. And we're going to go over a few wines very shortly. One of the things that I do every month is I do a little drawing for people who participate and take a picture of your gathering or of your screen or of your wines or whatever it may be. And if you tag me on Instagram or on Facebook or on Twitter or various forms of social media, I do a drawing for. Hey, hi Deirdre, how are you? I do a drawing for this month. Will be a wine T-shirt and a bottle of wine. Lisa Wilkes, are you out there? If you're out there, Lisa will tell you that it's real because she won the last time. And when I did leave the wine and the T-shirts out on the porch, they were gone, and I'm assuming she actually came and took them. So in a bag here, I have the folks who participated last month, who tagged me either by name or the Grapes Unwrapped on Instagram, and your names are all in this bag right here, and I will tell you who the winner is, and it'll also be for some wine and a T-shirt, and it is Maura Hargraves Kearns. All right, way to go. Maura, I will reach out to you. You're probably not here tonight, and you will get a bottle of wine and a T-shirt. All right. Who's here? Everybody here? Yeah, yep, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for the comment. Lisa commented that it absolutely is real. You're welcome, Lisa. Thank you also for being here every month and for participating. I greatly appreciate that. So this is our September, partial August, partial September community virtual wine tasting. Proceeds tonight are going to go to the OLS Food Pantry, Our Lady of Sorrows Food Pantry. Just a little, serious matters of business before we get social. The OLS Food Pantry has been giving out food to well over 400 families now during the pandemic. Back pre-pandemic, they were giving it out to a still far too high number of 125 to 150 most weeks. So there's been almost a tripling of the demand, and so every little bit helps. So proceeds from the wine sales, some of the proceeds from the wine sales will actually go to the OLS Food Pantry. The other thing that I am doing here as well is that I have since this is public and open to everybody, and if someone can maybe type this in as well so they have the information. I'm putting up my Venmo cup, if you will. It's at Hank Zona. You'll see my picture on there, and whatever goes into Venmo tonight, I will split half of it with OLS Food Pantry as well. So that's at Hank Zona on Venmo. The other thing is, if you have questions along the way, type those comments in, and I'll respond to them and answer them. The other thing I will do is if you want to even call me or text me, we can do that as well. My number is, and someone else wants to write this down and put it on the screen, 917-414-8957. 917-414-8957. You can call me, you can text me. I'm more likely to respond to a text. I might be busy, too busy to answer your phone call. So that's it. That's 917-414-8957. Reba, thank you. Nice to see you here. And again, the Venmo is at Hank Zona. And whatever is contributed to Venmo tonight, I will split 50-50 with the OLS Food Pantry. So thanks. Some future considerations, and I'm waiting for a date in October. The possible likely community partner is going to be Maple Woodstock. I've had some conversations with them. And hey, Heather, welcome. Hi, Tracy. Yep, that's the Malaspina gang, all right. Um, Hi, Amy, Andy, and Sarah. Thanks all for being here. So October was supposed to be the rescheduled Maple Woodstock, and I've spoken to the organizers. Unfortunately, like a lot of things, it's not coming off this year. But they did lay out money, and a lot of that money is not being recouped. I was hoping to announce details, but it looks like that the weekend, that second weekend of October, that was supposed to be Maple Woodstock. We're going to do like a virtual Maple Woodstock wine garden, and hopefully with some live music performances too. Details on that hopefully coming pretty soon. In the next few days or so. November, my community partner is going to be Mend. Mend is the Essex County network of over 20 faith-based food pantries and kitchens, of which OLS Food Pantry and St. Joe's Food Pantry are members. Um, Again, if you think of the numbers that OLS is dealing with, and you multiply it out all across Essex County right now, I think the current statistic is 1 in 8 Americans right now are food insecure. I did a tasting event with a collaborator of mine, Valerie Stivers, who writes a column for the Paris Review. We did a tasting for the Paris Review last week, and one of the things that I addressed at that was we're all very mindful that these are serious times, very serious times, and they're tragic times in some cases. But one of the ways that we maintain our humanity is to be mindful of the seriousness of the day and age, but also to retain our humanity by still pursuing our passions when we can and doing it appropriately. So that's about it. So let's jump into it. Gorings are driving back from day trip. Okay, hopefully starting by wine number 2. Amy, I'm sure you'll catch up. But as my public service announcement to the Gorings, be sure to feed the kids this time. All right. So let's do it. Wine number 1. Everybody here? Nat Cool. This is the kind of wine that if you've been drinking all night long, you don't want to leave it on the table facing you, unless it's that cool drink me part that's on the side. There we go. I like that. So, Nat Cool is Portuguese white wine. It's an Alvarinho from Vinho Verde. It's an Alvarinho. It's a Vinho Verde. A lot of us are used to. You're welcome, Amy. A lot of us are used to Vinho Verdes being the kind of $4 to $6, slightly fizzy adult soda pop. About 6-7% alcohol. Really dirt cheap in the Portuguese section of the wine store. Really great for summer drinking. But one of the things across the board is that the Portuguese have put a lot more time and effort and emphasis on creating better table wines. And this is a side project from the Newport family. Newports are really famous port people, and for many generations. And let's face it, a lot of people out there aren't drinking as much port as they used to be. Hello, Patty. Hello, Sean. Um, and you're finding now lots of really great red table wines made from a lot of those same grapes that ports are made from. And the quality of the white wines has really gone up through the roof. I've done a number of Portuguese tastings. I'm actually doing an alumni tasting, a Portuguese wine tasting for Seton Hall University in October. I know a mailing is going out to 40,000 people, so I'm curious how many people are going to participate in that. But there's some amazing values and great wine being made right now in Portugal at all different price points. So Dirk Newport decided to do this little side project, and basically it was a response to the demands for better made wine, for natural wines, for lighter wines, for just better quality wines. So he got together a bunch of grower friends. This is all organic fruit that they make this Nat Cool. The Nat Cool has a couple of reds in their series, and also this white. You can see this white is not crystal clear. It's a little on the maybe a little bit on the cloudy side, and it has a light fizz. This is not quite a pet nat or naturally sparkling wine, but what they end up doing is when they're making that wine, they leave a little bit of sugar in the bottle before they cork it up. and then and because the CO2 can't escape because it's corked up, it creates a little bit of a fizz in the wine. So that's where you get that little bit of fizz going on there. So again, you've got really nice color here. This is for the price. This is it's got a great smell, a little bit of nice funkiness, citrusy flavor, really good food wine. And this is the beauty of it. It's 100% organic. It's made naturally. It's hand-picked fruit, natural yeast. It's just a really incredible value. And when you think about this and the other wines, these are liter bottles. And that one of my observations over the past few tastings that we've done is that more and more folks are getting other people together to come in and sit and do these community tastings. And sometimes that one bottle doesn't quite go as far. So what you have here now with the liter bottles is it's 33% more than a regular bottle, and generally for the same price. You also have, so what you have here also is the equivalent now of 4 bottles of wine for the 3 that are sitting in front of you, which actually isn't so bad. In the past, we often thought like, hey, big bottle means it's probably not that good. And sure enough, a lot of wine stores have that long row of crappy wines that are made from all over, usually from California, that are in large format bottles that just aren't that good. But these are great party group types of wines, nice to know about and nice to have. And more quality wines are being made in this larger format because they know people are really, wine is social. Wine is social and wine is connective. These are mantras of mine I talk about all the time. So this is why it's I decided to come up with this theme. As more of you are gathering friends and family together to do these tastings, I thought, well, let me give you a little bit more to drink and to share with everybody. So that's what we have here in front of us, and I want to make sure I share some with my friends who are here. And Bruce, let's see, Bruce. Where are you, Bruce? There you go. I'm gonna give. Oh, wait, I go this way. I'm gonna give him the bottle.
Please, sir, may I have some?
Yes, you can. Here, you can take the whole bottle.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good handoff there, huh? All right. You can taste that nice little bit of fizz, nice and citrusy. Hello, Al. How are you? And I think I said hello to Sean. Excellent. So that's a nice glass of wine. And some of you I know are actually sitting around snacking, noshing, maybe pre-gaming for dinner. And nice thing about that is these wines, starting with this one, are really nice wines to have with this kind of like light fare that you might be sitting around picking on. Who was it? Christine? Christine, are you here? Type a comment for me. I know you got your whole block posse there, but Christine went so far as to actually contact the Maplewood Wheelhouse and get them to actually put together a cheese plate for her this time around too, which is pretty cool. So hopefully, I'd love to know what cheeses they got. That Aaron gave you from up there. That would be I'd be curious to know. So good. Hey, nobody's texted me any questions yet or any comments. And yes, Sean, I know it is dinner. I said that to somebody too. This is dinner, and I'm going to go straight to dessert after all these. So again, if anyone has questions, anyone has comments, they want to talk to me, the number is 917-414-8957. Call me with a question, call me with a comment, text one to me, and we'll keep the conversation going, or just type them right up there on the screen. So there we go. You tasted that wine yet, Bruce?
It's a nice, refreshing, and friendly white.
Bruce says it's nice, refreshing, and friendly, and he is right. It is a white wine too. So good. I'm glad you like that, Bruce. Just don't turn those eyes away from you, though. You don't want to be staring at the eyes on that label for too long. All right. Sean, I'm glad you like that. I think it is a delicious wine, too. They actually started making Newport started making this as a red wine. Oh, number again is 917-414-8957. 917-414-8957. And as I said at the top of the show, I'm putting out my Venmo tip cup. And anything that goes into my tip cup, I will split 50-50 with the OLS Food Pantry, including proceeds from the wine sales tonight. And my Venmo will go 50-50 to the OLS Food Pantry, and that is at Hank Zona. Pretty easy, right? It's especially if most of you are tuning in on Facebook, you got me there. So good. So Bruce liked that. I'm glad Bruce liked that, and he is a good wine drinker. So I'm happy to have him here. So show me some comments. What do people think of this first wine? Type them in. I know Sean said he thinks it's delicious. I think this is too. It's a really tasty wine. It's got a little bit more going on there than most white wines. Again, some really nice fresh fruit. I think, as I mentioned, they started making a red. So the first in the Nat Cool series was from the Barreira region in Portugal, and Barreira has their native red wine grape there is called Baga, Baga, and some wineries now are making this gorgeous, very Pinot Noir-like red wine from that Baga grape. Traditionally, though, 85% of that Baga grape goes to the production of Matus. Raise a hand if you remember Matus. Raise a hand if you had empty Matus bottles with candles melting down the sides. I'm sure some of you may have. So yes, Amy, I think it is a great summer wine, and and we shouldn't be giving up summer just yet, right? I was on the beach today. A little windy, but it was still nice to have toes in the sand. So Reba, there are some really decent Vino Verdes right now. And just a quick thing about that, Vino Verde really is the region, and that's up kind of in the north along the coast with a mountain range there in Portugal, and and Vino Verdes tend to be a blend of a lot of different white grapes, a lot of different, if you will, native grapes. But the two principal ones, if you want to find the best versions of a Vino Verde, are going to be based on Alvarinho, which is Albarino in Spain, where it is native, or the Lorero grape. And sometimes you'll find both of those blended in. There's no Alvarinho in this, but there is actually Lorero in this wine. So that just to give you an idea. Tracy. It is seltzery. Again, it is that little fizz comes in from the way that they make this wine. They do not ferment 100% all the sugar out of it. They leave some sugar and some yeast in the bottle. In fact, you may find a little bit of sediment in the bottom of this bottle, and then they cork it up. Because the CO2 can't escape, it locks in that fizz. It locks in, just like with a lot of these pet nat natural sparkling wines that are really popular right now. And not new. It's not a new style. It's actually a more traditional style than champagne style sparkling wines are. So that's what gives it that little bit of fizz, that little bit of a sultry flavor to it. And Lisa, I agree. I think it can go with a lot of things, or it can you can drink it all just by itself. That's good. Questions? Let's see. Anybody texted me? Oh, I got a text. Let's see. And this is from Nancy Schwartz. Hi, Nancy. Why are we hearing so much about pet nat lately? Because wine, like many other industries, is wine, like many other industries, follow trends, and and sparkling wine has gotten to be incredibly popular, even more so than it has been the past few years. And so people are looking for new styles, and the new style, the very new style of pet nat, is actually an old style. It's called Pétillant Natural. It's also known as Ancestral, and in some cases you'll see that on a label. And again, the method of making champagne, that style of making sparkling wine, came after these natural ways of making sparkling wine. And the nice thing about that is that it is less labor and time intensive than making a champagne style wine. So a lot of wineries are finding they're able to make these pet nats, which are fun, have a little bit lighter fizz, even some significant fizz to them. They're topped with a regular cork, so again, it's not as highly pressurized as say a bottle of champagne would be, but they're really delicious. They're really creative. They're working with lots of different grapes and making these wines. And it helps because the wineries can make these and have them out by the next season, as opposed to having to hold on to them for 2 or 3 or more years in order to age them properly. Because most champagne is made in a two-step process. It's made in it's first you make a still wine, and then you introduce yeast and sugar into it, and you go through a second fermentation. Here, the second fermentation is happening in the bottle. Now, I know a lot of wineries that have just started experimenting making pet nats, If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to have lots of exploding bottles in your at your winery. So it's it takes a little. There's a little knack to actually getting to learn how to make the wine. But they're fun. They're easy to drink. They're refreshing, and they're great food wines. Alyssa, what is the best food to have with this Portuguese? Great. Well, this is again, it's just a lighter wine. It's you can have this with lighter seafood. You can have this with salads. You can have this with charcuterie, especially if you're focusing on a cheese plate. Bruce was nice enough to bring over cheese and some sardines and some charcuterie, and I would say that that's actually perfect for this kind of wine too. So those would be some suggestions. So Nancy, did I answer your question? I hope so. All right. But anyway, I love sparkling wine. That's probably my favorite classification of wine. And in the past 6 months, while a lot of people were out there, hoarding toilet paper, I have to say I was kind of hoarding wine. And what I did was I support a lot of local wineries. I support a lot of northeastern wineries. I support a lot of small wineries, and they're the ones who tend to be a little more experimental and doing some fun and interesting stuff. And so that was kind of so that's why I was happy to and I'm happy to drink those too because they're fun to drink. Again, I love fizz too. To me, wines that have sparkle to them, have some effervescence to them, make for really great food wines. If you think about why people drink beer with certain foods, spicy food, pizzas, burgers, Latin American cuisine, Chinese cuisine, it's because there's acidity in them and there's bubbles, and those bubbles really help to scrub the palate and cleanse your palate. Well, I like that in sparkling wine. I prefer that in sparkling wine too. And that's why I think they're incredibly food friendly. The other really nice thing about wines that are sparkling wines, whether it's a traditional sparkling wine of some sort or a pet nat, is that they tend to be lower in alcohol because you want a higher amount of acidity, and that's not such a bad thing. So a sparkling wine is probably anywhere from 8 to 12% alcohol at its top end. A lot of table wines are now in the 13 to 16% alcohol. So you could be talking about, people might say, well, what's the big deal? It's just a few percentage points. Well, it's not about the percentage points. It's about the percentage difference. And, if you're drinking some of these high test wines, you're talking about 50% more alcohol than, not just 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% more on the label, but actually 50% more than the other wines. And when it comes to especially big meals, like a holiday meal, I prefer a sparkling wine, something that's lighter, that's not going to bog me down or weigh me down, and you don't need to complement heavy food with heavy wine. It's just too much. So, like for example, for like a Thanksgiving meal, I often have sparkling wines out there. I have ciders on the table, things that are light and refreshing and kind of complement the food well and help to cleanse the palate from all those different flavors and textures. So. When I'm ready, tell us about what's up in the Finger Lakes wine scene. Wow, at this point, Sean, it's almost like what lake, right? We were just up there a few weeks ago, and this time didn't even stray past Cayuga Lake. And just being on Cayuga Lake for a couple of days, there's an amazing cider being made up there, and there's some really fantastic wineries. And we were staying just down the road from Heart and Hands, which is on Cayuga Lake, and makes these really beautiful Pinot Noirs, and we sat there and just loved one after the other, and I think we bought probably 5 or 6 of the Pinot Noirs alone. I think the Finger Lakes, I can rattle off 15 names of places now making quality Pinot Noir, really good quality Pinot Noir. Riesling, of course, is really hot up there right now. The cideries are doing phenomenal stuff up there too. Those are beautiful, and some really great spirits being produced too. And it's just a beautiful part of the world. And the nice thing about it is it's just far enough away that it's not overrun by folks from down this way. And I love it up there. I have a bias because I went to school up there, but one of the things that has actually benefited, a few things have benefited the region up there. One is there's been much more interest and investment, not just in the wine industry, not just domestically, but you've got now some foreign winemakers and foreign money up there, which has been an influence, which has helped them tremendously. There's some really great food and another grower population up there, and again, other adult drinks are being made at a really high quality level as well. And the one thing they're benefiting from, and I have to be blunt about it, is they're benefiting from climate change. They're making quality red wines up there today that they couldn't make 35 years ago. The climate has changed to their advantage for now. And that's what's happening kind of in the Northeast and in Canada. It's it's really it's a I can go on and on and talk about the effects of climate, and we know it. We see the pictures and we see the images coming from the West Coast right now, and it really is horrific. So anyhow, that's a quick thing in the Finger Lakes. Let's see, Reba, you love the Finger Lakes. I do too. I think it's beautiful up there. Last year we really focused on Seneca Lake, and we actually went glamping, which was a lot of fun. And not only do I try to go to the wineries, but I know which wine stores to go to now too, to kind of supplement what I can't get at wineries that I can't make it to. And John, I had the good fortune to go to Cornell. As I like to tell people, I would never get in today. So I'm happy to be my age because I was able to get into Cornell then. So Tracy, the hot tip is that the wine is really good with blackberries. I can see it being really good with fruit. Absolutely, absolutely, because there's a nice fruitiness to it as well. And blackberries have a little bit of a earthiness to it, I think, just enough of it, and I think so does that wine. Sean, what is cider all about? Cider is cider's big. I mean, cider is it's one of the things John Adams drank. In fact, our founding fathers drank a lot. They drank a lot, and they drank a lot of things. And the Madeira was what they toasted the signing of the Declaration of Independence with. Madeira was a really, really big thing. And one of the reasons why Madeira was popular is because the island where it was made was off the European continent, and they were able to get it into the colonies not taxed. And then when they tried to tax Madeira, that's when they had things like tea parties and other such stuff. But cider, and another thing they found is that grapes really were not, a lot of the native grapes were not taking well here, that they were bringing over from Europe, but there were abundant number of apples. We all know that kids are always taught about how great Johnny Appleseed was and how he spread seeds around the country so there'd be apples for kids to eat. Well, Johnny Appleseed actually was helping people grow apples to make hard ciders and to make Applejack. So again, people drank an awful lot back then, and even more so than people were drinking during the pandemic. So so apples were abundant and really popular. There's been a real big resurgence and interest in cider for the same reason. They grow incredibly well, especially in this part of the country. The people at Ironbound Cider are doing some amazing stuff. There's a winery, Aaron Burr, up in the Hudson Valley that actually uses 100% foraged apples from the Catskills to make their ciders. And probably one of the coolest things to me is some of these cidery wineries now are doing these co-ferments where they're making wines by co-fermenting apples and grapes, or they're using grape skins or grape must now to make to make these great ciders. And to me it's really exciting because they're fun to drink and they're inventive. They are sustainable, incredibly sustainable. They are local, and they're delicious, and they're great with food. So, all right. Reba says, yes, try organic ciders like what's made in Asturias, Spain. They are amazing. And, and here's the thing, Reba, too. I'm not counting the, Reds and those other, was it Strongbow, or I don't even know the names of some of them. These commercial ciders that are made by, made by the beer companies, they don't count. First of all, they're more akin to alcoholic juice boxes than they are to real ciders. And that those apples aren't local. They're buying apple concentrate from China that's coming over here in in containers, and then they're kind of alcoholizing them. That's not cider making. But dry organic ciders that have some more of a taste of apple peel than apple fruit, that have that kind of earthiness and funkiness, just like Spanish ciders, like Asturias, just like a lot of the French ciders are that way too. I love them. I think they're refreshing. To me, that is as good a drink to have on your table for a Thanksgiving meal as almost any wine. So, all right, okay. Thank you for agreeing, Reba. Should we go on to red wine? Let's go on to next.
Red wine.
Bruce is saying red wine is good. Bruce was over here pre-gaming with a Verdicchio that I was using. If anybody, Nancy, I know you tuned in yesterday. I did a re-drinking video. We decided to do it live for people to kind of see what this little collaboration I have with the woman who Valerie Stivers is writing for the Paris Review, and we've now written we've co-authored a couple of pieces for the for Food 52. And in fact, if you look on my LinkedIn or I've posted on Facebook, I think it was pretty well received. And we were the last article we did for them was really how to kind of better identify what it is you like in wine, and it went across really good. But Nancy watched yesterday, and I found an interesting article somehow popped up on the internet. It was in Australian Vogue. I'm not a subscriber, and it was about a woman who started a business in Australia where she pairs wines, boutique, natural-made wines in Australia, with astrological signs. So I went and picked out wines that were similar to the ones that she used in the pairings, because not all those wines can get into this country. Some are very, very small production, and used both Valerie's astrological sign and mine. And so one of the wines we had was, hey, Callahan's, how are you? So one of the wines that we had was, was a Verdicchio. So my guests out here were pre-gaming with the Verdicchio. So Bruce is ready for red wine. So the red wine I have is the Gulp Oblo. And by the way, if you notice, none of the labels are backwards because I'm using StreamYard to do this. And and another reason why I moved over from Instagram Live for this is because Instagram Live only goes for 60 minutes, and I didn't want to try to have you all come back in here. So here we can kind of keep going for a while. Go Pablo, great label. This is a Garnacha. This is a biodynamic wine. So think of it as like organic plus plus. Think of it as feng shui for the vineyard or for the farm. The Paris brothers are winemaking brothers in La Mancha, right in the middle of Spain, which is really the biggest wine producing region within one of the biggest wine producing countries. And what they've done is they've kind of gone and found a lot of these old plots of Garnacha, and Garnacha is better known as Grenache, and even though it is native to Spain. And they found these plots of old vines that were mostly abandoned just out there in the countryside, and have started to make better wines from them. They have an over 450-acre vineyard that they make their wines from, and they raise those grapes. You think 450 acres, and you're thinking industrial farming. And sure enough, in this country, that would be industrial farm, and they would pick all those grapes by machine, and they would be spraying them at regular intervals with all kinds of nasty stuff. And then they would have these tank farms. There are wine tank farms in California that make all that really great mass-produced wine that look like, basically like oil tank fields. Well, these guys aren't doing that. They're raising their fruit biodynamically. The fruit is all hand-picked. Now, they have the benefit of being in the middle of Spain because it's basically cheaper. The land is cheaper, the labor is cheaper, so they're able to do these things and sell these wines at really an amazing price. So they do a white wine. The white wine is based on the Verdejo grape. They do a red blend, which is Garnacha and Tempranillo, and this is 100% Garnacha. Kind of nice. I mean, last time I used this for a Spanish event, that's a nice color. It kind of matches my shirt, doesn't it? What do you think, huh? Last time I did this for a Spanish event, from the year it came from, it was pretty light. It was almost like a rosé. I love Garnacha. Garnacha to me or Grenache is an incredibly versatile grape in all its forms. Whether it's a lighter, kind of see-through wine like this, or whether it's made at a heavier, higher alcohol basis, it's to me is it's incredibly versatile. It's if you had to pick if someone says to me, I need one red wine for a dinner party, I often suggest Grenache or Côte d'Aron that is a Grenache and Syrah blend, because it's incredibly versatile. But what you have here for the price is an incredibly well-made wine, fruit that's hand-picked, wine that's naturally made. It's not just certified organic, but it's biodynamic, which also goes through an incredibly stringent certification process. It's got a fun label, and you don't mind putting this out on a table and having people kind of grab that and have a drink of it. Let me get right in there. There we go. That's fun, right? And for those of you who are just kind of passing through and tuning in, I'm sorry you don't have the wine. It's actually very good. And Reba, I'm glad you like that. Excuse me 1 second. Bruce, would you like some red wine?
Yes, sir.
Come on over, Bruce. Which shoulder? This the shoulder? There we go. Excuse me while I hand this over. Bruce, there are you. Get everybody. There you go. Get everyone away.
Was asking for it.
Oh, she was. Okay. All right. Let me take a sip of this. So this is a nice lighter red. This is I would almost consider this a summer red. Sure, absolutely. John, most definitely, this is one that I would chill. Or could chill. I suggested that to some folks if they had the time or wanted to. I knew that since it's kind of dropping now, it's probably now in the high 60s. I didn't think it necessarily needed a chill. If anyone did tune into that Paris Review tasting I did last week, it was Valerie's column is called "Eat Your Words." It's a food and literature column where she takes classic pieces of literature and recreates the food. And I'm her kind of wine and spirits guide. So she had done a piece on D.H. Lawrence, and D.H. Lawrence is, I think she did Lady Chatterley's Lover. Yes, she did. And but what she focused on in her column was how D.H. Lawrence actually lived in New Mexico for a while. After he sort of got kicked out of England, he spent a lot of time in Italy. I actually read his series of travel logs from different parts of Italy he spent time in. But he was in New Mexico, and what Valerie did was she actually built her own bread oven like he had in New Mexico. And she said to me, "Is there wine from New Mexico?" And I said, "Absolutely, there's wine from New Mexico." And we talked about this. I talked to her about the history of the mission grape brought over by Spanish missionaries, which is known as País in Latin America. It's Liston Prieto and Liston Negro in the Canary Islands, where it's still grown too. And it really led us into a conversation. And this is back end of May, early June, when she was writing the column about chilling reds. And chillable red wines has gotten to be incredibly popular for a couple of reasons. One is a lot of people have dialed back the oak and the alcohol and the heavily processed red wines. A lot of natural wines are being made lighter and easier to drink too. And those wines tend to be actually better to chill. You don't want to have a big oaky 15% alcohol, highly tannic wine and stick that in the fridge because you're going to lose the flavor of the fruit and the taste. And you're going to just taste the oak and taste the tannins, and it's not going to be terribly pleasing. But a wine like this, you're not dealing. This is 100% stainless steel fermented. It's not a lot of tannins in it, so it would take very nicely to having a light chill to it. And and over the past couple of months, as we know, it was kind of warm here in New Jersey, and I easily would like to stick a wine in the fridge for half an hour, a red wine, and drink it chilled. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And no one wants to drink something that's tepid, even a red wine. Sean asked, is Garnacha part of a Rioja? Garnacha can be blended in Rioja. It's mostly Tempranillo, Graciano. Rioja Garnacha is certainly in the blend, Sean, too, sometimes. But Tempranillo, I'd say, is the principal backbone of it. And Gruet is from New Mexico. Gruet is a good story. So just to, even though we're not drinking New Mexican wine, but just to give a little bit of history here, New Mexico is the part of the United States where wine was first made by Spanish explorers and settlers and missionaries 500 years ago. So, and up until middle of World War II, it was one of the top 5 wine producing states in the country. In fact, it was one of the premier wine producers in the late 1800s. And then even through Prohibition, that's when D.H. Lawrence spent his time there. It's they did keep the tradition of sacramental wine was still made in the United States, as well as lots of illegal wine. And but what really killed the industry was a series of floods of the Rio Grande, and flooded a lot of the wine regions in New Mexico. And that kind of, between Prohibition and the war and the floods, it just kind of put it on hold. The Gruet family are a Spanish a Champagne family. And when they came to the United States about 30 years ago, they were looking to see what terroir best replicated what they had in Champagne. They went through Washington, Oregon, California, and they settled in on New Mexico. And they are probably one of the premier sparkling wine producers right now in the United States. Both their entry level wines are really, really good for the price, but even their series of higher level wines are fantastic. And they do make some still table wines too, Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs specifically, since those are two of the three principal grapes that go into champagnes. So just to give you a little background on that. So, all right, how are we doing? Amy, are you in the house yet? Check in, Amy. Raise your hand. Wave to us. Oh, I have a text. Let's see here. What do we got here? I got a. All right. I got a. Oh, oh, that's nice. I got a nice picture here. Let's see if you can see that. Look at that. See, that's the kind of pictures I'm talking about, people. Tag those for me. And you're all in. Okay. Let's see. All right. Oh, another picture. Look at that. That's nice. Thanks, Jesse. See, that's what I want. Yeah, send those pictures. Tag me on Facebook. Tag me on Instagram, The Grapes Unwrapped. That's really good. Amy, thank God you're there. Whew. All right. Catch your breath, Amy. We can backtrack if you want me to. Hi, James. How are you? So, do I recommend this wine with salmon or Spanish tapas? Yes. And in fact, I love red wine with salmon. I love red wine with meatier, fattier fish, and that's what salmon is. So we all think we're supposed to pair red wine with meat and excuse me, white wine with fish. I pair wine by weight, by mouthfeel. Medium bodied wine, medium bodied food, light bodied, full body, full body. So salmon is not a light bodied fish by any stretch of the imagination. Depending on how I prepare it, will depend on if I have red wine with it, or rosé, or white wine, or sparkling wine. For example, summertime, I'm grilling it. Maybe I'm using a lot of citrus. Maybe I'm serving it with a side salad. I'm probably going to go for a white wine, a little more robust white wine. If it's think fall, I have this great porcini mushroom powder that I use that's got some thyme in it and some hot pepper, and I'll put that over char or salmon. I certainly want to have a red wine with that, or I might serve that with, say, sautéed mushrooms, maybe with, with a little heftier kind of vegetable on the side. That to me is red wine. So when you're pairing wine with food, don't just consider the protein, but consider the whole dish and how that food's prepared too. Amy, my phone number is 917-414-8957. Nobody's been brave enough to actually call yet, but I am checking my texts. Thank you. So there we go. 917-414-8957. And once again, the other thing I mentioned is that my Venmo is at Hank Zona, because none of you have been charged for this except for the wine. And so I like to put out a tip jar, but because it is for the OLS Food Pantry, I'm going to split that tip jar, whatever I get on Venmo, 50-50 with the food pantry. And just to backtrack again a little bit, OLS Food Pantry most recently has been providing food for between 400 and 450 families. That's up from 125 to 150 families normally. So that's significant, and it's serious. And I think one of the best things that we can do is to get around, be communal, both in your little small grouplets that you're with tonight, and then within the framework of this larger group, and enjoy ourselves and pursue our passions and socialize, but also try to help out and be mindful of what else is happening. And you're all good people, and I appreciate you being here. So, repeat my number. Let's see. Did anybody? Oh, there's a text. Let's see. All right. Let me see what I got here. This is kind of fun. Oh, now I'm getting pictures. Oh, this is a good one. There you go. I like to show you guys off on the. Cool. Oh, now they're coming in fast and furious. All right. Oh, here's another. Oh, this is a nice one. Here you go. There you go, folks. This is good. Why don't you cut James out of that picture? Oh, wait, here we go. Thank you. And who else? This is from. This is nice. Oh, this is excellent. I like this group. This group is keeping their distance here. Hello, Frank. Hello, Marie. Thanks for checking in. Hi, Suzanne. Hey, folks. Now there's Suzanne. Suzanne says it's so good to see my face. Suzanne, I'm so happy to see you. Suzanne, if you're reading those comments, owns a South African wine bar and restaurant on the Upper East Side. There is nobody in this country. Well, she happens to be South African. There is no finer authority on South African wine and food, and has no greater collection of South African wine in this country, in our area, than she does. And you need to, if you're in the city and you want something different, and if you want true hospitality from a person whose restaurant is, she treats it like it's her home and invites everybody into it. You have to actually seek her place out. Suzanne, what's your address again? You're at Lexan 91st, 92nd, 94th, somewhere in that area, right? Or not on that. Is it Lex? Type it in for us so people know, and I'll make sure I post more information about it. It really is great. She using a lot of traditional South African ingredients and foods. It's a fun, welcoming place, and the wine list really is killer. It really is. And mention Hank when you come. Yes, that's that. That sounds good. All right. Thanks, Suzanne. All right. Where were we? Okay. So we've knocked off. Garnacha. Any more questions? Oh, Third Avenue. I'm sorry. I thought it was Lex. Okay, great. Kaya. Kaia. That is Third Avenue between 90th and 91st. And despite all the trials and tribulations, and despite all of the the tragedy that's been happening, she her heart and soul is in this restaurant, and I don't know how you do it, but she keeping the place afloat, and it's not just a true neighborhood place, but it's a nice destination to go to. And again, if you want to try something different and get some great hospitality, try Kaya. There you go. See, and this wasn't even a prepared plug. I'm just happy she checked in and said hi, and I'm happy to say something really great about her because she deserves it. Thanks, Suze. All right, any more text? This is good. I like this. I like this whole idea of people like texting me, even though nobody's called me yet. So, Garnacha, thumbs up. What do you folks think? Again, one of the nice things about these wines is that the wines we have tonight are all incredibly well made. The fruit is of the highest quality, and there's a lot to be said for that. There really is. It's amazingly fun. Thanks, John. I think it is. And look, let's be perfectly honest here. When we're talking about liters of wine, wines for a group, when I went forward with these wines, here are wines that were fun, they were interesting, they were incredibly well made, they are very versatile with food, and these are wines that if you put out, you don't have to worry about. These are not deep and brooding wines. These are not heavily age-worthy wines. But interestingly enough, these wines are all made by great winemakers who make even better higher-end wines. But these wines themselves are really well regarded and well rated as well. So I'm not just giving you crap here. Come on. Next. Italy. So look at that label, first off. It says Fiasco. But one thing I want to point out here, it says Chianti, DOCG. DOCG is really the rating system in Italy for wines, and DOCG is the highest quality rating that you can get for wine. So here you have a liter of wine with kind of a fun label that is not just a Sangiovese, mass-produced Sangiovese. It is not just a standard Chianti. It's actually, the quality of the grapes, the quality of the winemaking warrants it to have the highest guarantee rating of quality. So that's what the DOCG means. So when I first had this wine, so the winery is Monte Bernardi, and Monte Bernardi is owned by a Michigan guy, and he and his sister and his mother bought the winery back in 2003. But the Monte Bernardi name as a vineyard and as a winery dates back to the year 1085. So not 1985, but 1085. And that's one of the things I love about wine is the history of it and how it just goes back not just generations, but centuries. and he bought this winery and from the beginning uh, turned it into an organic and started using biodynamic principles in making the wine. When I first had one of his wines, it came in a fiasco. For all you Lady and the Tramp fans out there, you know that famous kissing scene where they had the fiasco with the candle in it and all that stuff, right? So I was going to say Monty Python, no, Nancy. So this is a wine that he put out a few years ago as a special release in the fiasco. I will tell you this: if you were drinking wine out of a fiasco in the 50s, 60s, 50s was probably like a great wine. Come the 60s, though, what happened was in Italy, in Tuscany, the system where winery owners were allowing the people working the vineyards and the fields to keep 49% of everything they produced ended, and a lot of the vineyards were basically sold off to people from other countries. They were sold off to business people, to bankers. They became sort of places to live and lifestyle places, and wine quality really took a real hit. So if it came in a fiasco after a while, it probably was a fiasco, and unfortunately, it's people see that fiasco, and I think that's why he only did it as a limited release, because now I think there's almost a connotation that it's a bad quality wine from a bad Italian American restaurant. So, but this wine was never bad as a DOCG grapes. It's biodynamic. His high level Chiantis that he's making there are incredibly rated, but he also makes some of these less expensive, fun in liter bottles of wine, like the Fiasco. He also does one, that's kind of an ode to all Italian wine, where he takes some of the greatest Italian grapes from all over the country and blends them into a wine. Tracy, I finally hit your sweet spot. Thank you. So yes, and I'm glad you make that point, because that's one of the things about this wine that I think is fantastic is you don't even have to stick your nose in the glass before you really start to actually get a sense of it, and this is really good. This is made from 100% Sangiovese. You could do a blend of Sangiovese with other permitted grapes in Chianti in order to get that DOCG label. This is 100%. It's biodynamic. It'll say on the side of your it says on the side of your label made with organic grapes. That's because the difference between organic in Europe and organic here in the United States is that they allow a smaller percentage more of sulfites to go into organic wines than we do here in this country. It's actually kind of silly, because even the percentage that they allow in Europe to put in wines is just a mere fraction of what most. Well, let's put it this way: a small bag of dried apricots, a um, a uh, a container of French fries from McDonald's has 50 times the sulfites that a glass of wine does. So so a lot of times people will say to me, "Oh, I have an aversion to sulfites," and I'll ask them, "Well, are you asthmatic?" Because people who are asthmatic tend to have an aversion to sulfites. But other than that, it might be an aversion to something else, or the problem might be that somebody maybe drank too much, because most people do not have an aversion to sulfites. And again, not to say that stuff has to be overburdened with sulfites and all, but sulfites have their place as a preservative, and aren't necessarily a bad thing unless it's really at a high level. In order for it to be organic in Europe, it's still a pretty low level. It just has to be higher than the United States. So they don't get that United States organic green and white label on these wines, but often, lots of the other factors that go into the wine is, in Europe, to get that organic tag exceeds really a lot of the standards that we have here. Another thing about this wine too, and here's the thing with me: organic's great, but there are certain things that can make a wine or any kind of food organic that isn't necessarily good. One of the biggest things that farms use and wineries use is copper sulfate, and copper is actually not that good. Can you think about the buildup of copper over time? Yet it is organic, and wineries can use that to fight mold and rot, and that's not good. The thing that's important to me is how well cared for the grapes are, and one of the nice things about all three of these wines, the fruit is all hand picked. machines aren't kind of going through and kind of sucking up everything. Because when the machines come through, you get leaves and twigs and rocks and bugs and critters and all that stuff, and then they basically scrub those wines clean and add all kinds of stuff to it. When fruit is handpicked right then and there, it's just a higher level of selectivity than you're going to find. So anyway, I want to taste this wine. It smells really good. Bruce, would you like some Chianti? Some freaking Chianti. Forget about
Grazie,
it.
grazie.
Hey, prego. That's my Italian friend, Bruce.
Brucine. Bruno.
Bruno. Hey, that's good. So that tastes like it's supposed to taste. It's people think Italian wines are big and heavy red wines. Some of the most popular Italian wines tend to be more tannic, and you can taste the tannins in this wine, right? You taste that, and you get that kind of like chalky taste. It's like you just had a cup of tea or something, right? And that's what the tannins are. And the tannins really come from the skin mostly of the grape. Sometimes from the seeds, sometimes from the barrel, but mostly from the skin contact. And the nice thing about those tannins is they make a wine a little more food friendly. They'll disappear. Like if you're sitting there with some food, you'll have a little piece of charcuterie, have a piece of cheese, and then taste that wine, and you won't taste the tannins as much because the fat in that food will sort of balance it all out. But this is a nice wine. This is a wine that means I can probably hold on to this wine for a few years. If I found a bottle of this in my basement in like 2 or 3 years, I can still drink it and it'd probably be really, really good. It's got that tannic structure. It also means it's good with food. If I'm in Tuscany, I'm drinking Chianti. I'm drinking Sangiovese with pastas, with tomato sauce. I'm having it with steak, with grilled steak. It's an incredibly versatile food grape Sangiovese in all its forms, and they tend not to be. People think they're big because they're tannic, but the alcohol level on this is 13%. Brunellos, which also are made from Sangiovese, Chianti Classicos and Superiores, they tend not to be higher than 14% alcohol. And that's not so bad. They're big because of their tannic structure there. But you think about California Reds, they're 15, 16%. And you're starting to get pretty high and pretty hot with the alcohol level there. John, I am happy to hear that. John's group loves the Fiasco. Oh, I got another text. Who's this from? I got lots of texts, but nobody's called me yet. Oh, nice picture, Marie. Marie McGahee sent me nice food shots now, too. Unfortunately, I don't have any food in front of me. Let's see who else I'm hearing from here. Pairing our wine with chocolate ganache cake. Okay. You know why? Because you can. Let's see. There we go. And I got one more. Here's a phone call. This is good. I'm going to put them on speaker. Hi, this is Hank Zona. Who is this? Who is this?
Hi, Hank.
Hi, who is this?
Who's this? Is this Bruce?
No, this isn't Bruce. This is Hank. Look, it's my. Wait. You want to speak to Bruce? Who wants to speak to me or Bruce?
No, I want to speak to you.
Who is this?
This is Nancy.
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
I'm excellent.
Excellent. Okay. You have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay. I told you I'd answer my phone.
Here's the question.
Okay.
What is the Nancy Schwartz?
Yes. I know who it is.
This is my question. My question is, what is the North American version of Chianti? Or what's the closest approximation?
That's a good question. What I'm going to do is take you offline because there's a little bit of an echo here, okay?
Yes.
All right, so I'll answer it directly here. Thanks for calling, Nance. Nice talking to you.
You bet.
All right, see you in a minute. All right.
Bye.
So, Nancy asked, what's the North American version of Sangiovese? Wow, that's a tough question. A lot of times people will compare Sangiovese to Pinot Noir. I don't quite think so. I think Nebbiolo from Piemonte is more like Pinot Noir. Perhaps Cabernet Franc might be. But Cabernet Franc differs from a Sangiovese in that it tends to have a vegetal kind of a flavor to it. But I would say, especially in the Northeast, Cabernet Franc might be our closest match to that in both body and food friendliness and in style. I love Cabernet Francs actually with a protein and vegetable kind of a meal, corned beef and cabbage. Think about like a lamb stew, anything that's got a real predomination of protein and vegetable, but not so much a starch. I think Cab Francs are actually great with those, and I think they're actually better than Cabernet Sauvignons in most cases. So when it comes to food, so yeah, I think that's probably the best bet. Now, interestingly enough, there are Italian varietals that are being grown in the United States. Only recently have some wineries started to actually make Italian grape wines in the United States that actually kind of taste Italian. There's this great little winery in, of all places, Pennsylvania, in the Brandywine Valley called Val La. And Anthony, the owner, it makes only about 800 cases of wine a year. It's an amazing place to visit. It's about a 2 hour drive or so from Maplewood, and that's even driving at a normal pace. And it's kind of a magical place. And he grows mostly these northern Italian grape varieties and makes these traditional field blends, big reds, and he does a rosé and he does an orange wine as well. And he really is phenomenal. And he kind of gives me hope that because he has such a great following that and he's doing this all himself. He's a true vigneron in that he's growing the grapes, he's picking them, he's tending to them, and he's making the wines all himself. And he is not some big corporate conglomerate that has no hand at all in the process. And I think that's the winery, Nancy, is called Vala, Vala. So that is the that is the wine. Where in PA, Lisa? It's in Avondale in the Brandywine Valley. Can I spell the name of the PA guy? Anthony, Anthony, Amy. Vala, Vala. And he's I think he's a former movie scriptwriter. His family emigrated from northern Italy. They've had this farmland for over a century, and he decided he wanted to actually yes, that's it, Amy. And he decided he wanted to actually thank you, yeah, to make wine. And he does these traditional field blends, and it's really he's a great person and truly humble, and has a beautiful little space. And he's next to a mushroom farm, which I guess if you're anywhere in Avondale, you may be next to a mushroom farm. So, all right. Yes, Nancy, exactly. Great mushroom country. So he is right next to a mushroom farm, and I wouldn't doubt that sort of benefits him to some extent too in growing his fruit. So, all right, this is cool. We're doing well. No more texts, no more calls. All right. I like this. Let me see if I got any other pictures I haven't gotten to. Chocolate ganache cake sounds good. Sean, look at Sean. Sean, you're looking good there, man. Sean is deep in thought there with his wines. He's analytical. I don't think I have the right angle there. Okay. Anyway, this is good. 3 wines, 4 bottles worth. That's what 3 liters are. All incredibly well-made wines. Again, these are wines for a group. These are fun wines. These are good drinking wines. These are wines that you can drink by themselves. These are wines you could put out at a party. And these are wines that will go with basically most of the food you're going to serve at a party. These are all very reasonably priced wines too, especially for the quality of how they're made and the quality of the grapes that go into them, and they're good. These are. I've got a friend who owns a restaurant in the Ironbound. Angel Leston owns Casa de Paco, and he and I have done a lot of events together. And he has a house Albarino and house Tempranillo. And I remember the first time he made his own private label Tempranillo, and he said to me, he's like, "What do you think about it?" And I said, "This is really good because this is a wine that people don't have to think twice about ordering a second bottle, because you get a lot of people who will go there in groups and all." And 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 the nice thing about that is, wine doesn't have to be intense, or it doesn't have to be super expensive, or it doesn't have to be brooding, or it doesn't have to, doesn't have to require a lot of thought. At the root of it, it is fun and it is social and it is connective, and it just has to be good. And I think some of my most memorable wine stories are of good wines, not necessarily those unicorn wines that people often say, "Have you ever had this? Have you ever had that?" And sure, I've had some pretty amazing wines in my life, but the ones that sometimes stick with you aren't necessarily that the $800 wine that I might have had the benefit to have somebody let me taste at one time. And that's certainly not how I drink at home, and that's certainly not how most of you drink at home either. So it's nice to be able to show you something in a larger format and that is more fun and social that you can share with more folks, because that's what most of you seem to be doing here tonight, and that is good, and that you don't mind grabbing a second glass of, and it's and you might want to break it down a little bit, think about it, why you like it and all, but at the same time, it's just good and it's enjoyable, and and again, my feeling about wine and food is this: wine and food is the frame, and the people are the picture. So all you are in groups of two or more today, up to maybe like 10 or more people, and the beauty of that is you want to have a really good frame for a picture that you have. So having good food and wine is really fantastic. You don't want to have a cheap frame for your picture, but you also don't need to have a crazy, ridiculously expensive frame sometimes too. You just need a frame that's appropriate for the picture that you're creating. So that's what I think about these wines. So there. Let me see if I have any more texts. No more texts. Any questions? Any comments? Who is my leader? That's a good question, Sean. My my leader. Well, if you mean like what do I like out of these three, so this is the interesting thing about leaders too. And my very first thought when putting together a list of when thinking about the list of the leaders of what wines I was going to get was I wanted to make sure they were well made. They came from quality producers. But one of the first things that were first I started drinking better quality liters of wine were Austrian wines. If you've ever been in Austrian Heriga, and there's one up in the Finger Lakes, there's Daniel, which is up on Seneca Lake, and actually has Maplewood ties to it. Daniel unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, but his wife grew up in Maplewood, and I think her family might still be living here. And he built this kind of like Austrian sort of like country restaurant cafe right in the middle of wine country and on Lake Seneca. And so usually if you go to a place like this in Austria, they've got liter bottles of Austrian white and Austrian red wine on the table. They've got the Gruner Veltliner and they've got Blaufränkisch or Zweigelt out on the table. And people just kind of drink them with their meals, and they kind of pay for whatever they drink out of the bottles. So I was going to throw in a Gruner Veltliner or throw in an Austrian red, because again, traditionally this is where these wines actually. This is where I first started saying, hey, there's quality larger bottles of wine out there at a reasonable price, and you get a little bit more out of it. But I just didn't find the ones that I wanted. They weren't in the market right now. And so I chose these other leaders, and again from quality producers. Just to give you a little background, when I put these things together, I create a wish list, and I speak to my wholesalers. And I'm doing this, by the way, through Village Wine Shop in Maplewood, and these guys have been fantastic. They have really brought in more and more small producers, working with small wholesalers, working with natural wine producers, organic wine producers. They really have a great mix of wine in the shop there now. There's more and more for everybody there, and I'm big. I'm a small business, and I like to support small wine producers, small wineries, small importers and wholesalers, small retail operations, because right now the conglomerates are the ones who are sort of controlling the market. We know for whatever reasons people have been drinking a lot more the past 6 months, but the people making the money are really the mass producers and the mass sellers out there. If some of you follow New Jersey business news, a lot of the big retailers and two of the biggest behemoth wholesalers in the state just got nailed in a basically a price fixing scam. And what they were fined though is they're paying fines out over 10 years, and it's really a slap on the wrist for the size of these operations. And this goes on and on and on. In many industries, it's not just really in the wine industry. So I even more want to support the small and support people out there who are involved in it. So if you follow me, like Sean asked me who does the cooking at home, because I know Sean follows me and Nancy on Instagram. and I do the cooking, and my daughter does a lot of cooking too. But you'll see, I talk about local businesses that I support. I talk about local wineries. I talk about small wineries. I talk about the small importers and producers. I try to work those into all the tastings that I do, and because those are the ones that kind of need our support. And, every time you go and pick a celebrity rosé off the list, you're hurting a small business. Because you know what, maybe Bon Jovi's a nice guy and does some good deeds, and maybe Post Malone actually has always wanted to make a rosé his entire life, even though he's 24. But they're not winemakers. They're not working in the fields. They're smart business people. I'll give you that. But they're missing that little kind of passion piece in it. And anyhow, I don't want to proselytize too much, but I support small. I support local as best as I can, and I'm trying to bring you different things when I do these tastings and different perspectives. And it's what fun is it drinking Santa Margarita and talking about that? There's no stories behind that. So there's more stories in other kinds of wines. So anyhow, and again, and also as Suzanne is another person who I was happy to actually talk about tonight because she's a small business and a small restaurant doing some unique and amazing stuff. And oh wow, was that Suzanne? There's a South African who owns a wine farm. He owns the farm, but he's not a winery, right? He's just growing grapes up there. I'll have to check into that next time I'm up there. So pretty cool. So that's it, I think. Any more questions? Should I check my? Everybody like their wines? I hope you're liking your wines. I hope you like your foods, but I really hope more than anything you're liking your company. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me wherever. Tell more folks about these things. I really, we've had, we don't have a big turnout. We're just coming out of summer. People I know are still trying to get used to whatever school is and whatever form that it's taken. So far this year, I know these are difficult times, but I try to make these kind of fun little communal things. I will keep doing them just for some other future things to look for. If any of you are Seton Hall grads, I know you are. In first week of October, I'm going to be doing a big Zoom Seton Hall wine tasting. I'm also trying to work out for any of you who are friends of Sunil Kumar, Sunny's Indian Kitchen. Sunny and I have talked. We are going to do a virtual wine pairing dinner with his Indian food. If any of you also think you might like the idea of a virtual wine dinner, I have. There's a young woman who's a marketing executive who actually makes wine in California here and lives here in New Jersey. And Amira and I have talked a number of times about doing some stuff. Well, we're going to do a wine dinner with probably I've already talked to a young chef, Kwame Williams, who used to have a restaurant in Montclair, who was a Columbia High School grad and grew up in South Orange. And so I've got this great young African-American winemaker. And she does it, part-time, being also being a parent, a wife, and a marketing executive with this great African-American chef who grew up in our community, and doing a wine pairing, a virtual wine pairing dinner with them too. We're just trying to work out the dates. So there's lots of fun things kind of in the works. Oh, and the last thing is, some of you may have seen it. I put it on Soma Lounge. Excuse me, on the on Soma Media Group. I'm hoping to do some virtual wine and movie nights where we're going to pair wines with movies, and it's going to be me and a movie critic or writer kind of talking about the wine and food and also the movie itself. So lots of things in the works, and that's what's happening. I'll check my text one more time. One more text. Let's see. I am fantastic at this. Thanks for making our Saturday that much better. I knew my family would write, so thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for supporting it. Remember, one last time, my Venmo is at Hank Zona. Half of anything that goes into Venmo tonight, I will give also to the OLS Food Pantry. It's great that we can pursue our passions and that we can be together and also help out lots of folks. So thank you. Have a great rest of the weekend. See you around campus.